Hello, and welcome back to Jack's Coffee Break. My name is Jack, this is my coffee break, and today we are going to be talking about Planet Zoo's Conservation Pack DLC. So this is easily one of my favorites, but in order to fully understand why, we're going to break down all of the different parts and the animals. So let's go ahead and get into it. Alright. So now moving on to one of the most beloved packs that the game's ever had. This is the Conservation Pack. So, of course, let's go through the build parts. First things first, we have to acknowledge the best pieces. Look at these. Look at these statues. They're little, like, jelly babies. They're fantastic. I love them. They're so cute. Yeah. This easily has been a highlight of this pack. But even so, I mean, there's basically nothing in here that loses, you know? So, we are looking at a lot of backstage pieces, small pieces, kind of farming or greebly bits. But for the most part, it's actually stuff that I think the average person would use, as opposed to like the pallets and the boards and all of that kind of stuff from the Australia pack. This is a little bit more universal. So starting over here, we've got an insect hotel, we've got a hose, these little, like, grocery cart things for hauling in vegetables. We've got buckets. We've got every single kind of tool you could possibly hope for. Trellises, vegetables, wheelbarrows, a dumpster. We've got one of these little water conservation things. We've got ducts, so, like, air ducts, and then a refreshed version of water piping. There was already, like, a gutter system in base game. This is sort of an updated, more modern version of it. Little cardboard boxes. Just a ton of little bits and bobs and pieces that are just really useful, you know. These little flower pots and things. Much like the aquatic pack gave us these sort of grass pieces with the wood on the bottom, we get another set of this. This just doesn't have anything on top, it's just flat, short grass. So it's a little bit more customizable, I'd say. Really nice for filling in gaps when the texture or the terrain just doesn't want to agree with you. This is really nice for helping to clear some of those areas and, like, just shore everything up. Finally, we have a unified style of sign. So this is probably our most uniform style that we're gonna get. So we've got all of our different animals as well as a couple of bonus freebies. So we've got the Amur leopard, the axolotl, the Przewalski's horse looking like Spirit. If you remember the Disney movie Spirit. We have the Cymangs, and then we have the scimitar horned oryx. So very good selection of animals. We've also got bees, ladybugs, a couple of flowers. We got 2 versions of the axolotl. Overall, really, really good signage. And then we get into some of the wood pieces. So these are all Flexicolor. Here you can see the channels. This is how it's going to work for all of them. And these are just like slatted wood pieces that are just really nice for filler kind of things. So you need something for boardwalks, or you just want something that looks kind of stylish. This all works for this. Here you can see some examples of how they're using it in the blueprints, which the blueprints for this are just gorgeous. Like, they're worth ripping apart and actually using in a zoo, I think. And they've got kind of like fae vibes almost, like fairy almost, which I really like. Tons and tons of rounded shapes, grass sort of growing on top of things. If you want to build like a futuristic, like, green city zoo, like an eco-brutalism kind of zoo, this is absolutely the pack you need. Like, this will give you all the bits and bobs to do it. Overall, very good. Of course, we also cannot ignore the foliage. Again, this was winds all around. So this is our first introduction of low-lying, widespread grasses and flowers. Before this, we really did not have anything like it. So we've got different kinds of wildflowers, from poppies to oxeye daisies to, I think, peonies or something. We also have tomatoes, so we had a couple of other vegetables over there. So here we've got full-on tomato plants, as well as sunflowers. And then we've also got this London foggrass, or not London foggrass, Yorkshire foggrass. I'm thinking about tea. And these are just really, really useful and flexible. Like, no longer do you have to deal with just the terrain painter of long grass or short grass. You can actually have pieces for this. Of course, we also get a few trees. So we get this Aquilaria tree. Very, very tall. Kind of fun. Next, we get the fig tree. So this is more of like a bush, and it's very good for blocking sightlines. We go into explore mode. You really can't see through it or past it or anything. So it's pretty good when you need to block an area for whatever reason, but you don't want to waste a whole bunch of like build parts, or you don't want it to look too man-made. That's a pretty good tree for that. And then we also have the Korean pine tree, which looks like, it kind of reminds me of, I think we have monkey puzzle trees in this game. But it reminds me of like the monkey puzzles and a couple of the other like primordial plants that were included in the Zoo Tycoon 2 dinosaur pack. Really reminds me of those. So a really just overall nice tree to have. Of course, there's also some other unlocks. I haven't really been going over the different path styles up until now. There have been different paths. So you get this like red rock, you get this ice texture that shows up in the snow, this nice wooden plank panel texture, this sort of like the bottom of a pool on a summer's day, and then this sort of tile. All of these are really nice, but the conservation pack brought us just straight up like green path textures, which is really cool, you know? And it does stay green so long as you don't have stairs up. It's got this nice woven twig style railing for you. And then just some really nice flexible benches and all that. But now let's talk about the animals, because the animals, again, did not miss. Everything about this pack was just whatever the right choice was, they made it here. So let's start with our Amur leopard. Overall, extremely good model. I think this guy has got his eyes closed. There we go. They're a little bit soft, a little bit doughy-eyed, but a lot of the Planet Zoo animals have that kind of aspect to them. Overall, though, just a really good example of a leopard. You know, for the longest time, we were using these guys as stand-ins for basically like some of the African leopards and all that. Them, and when we get to jaguars, they also kind of fit the bill. Now, of course, we have the African leopard. It's going to come, for me, it will be coming on Tuesday. For you guys, it's been out. So yeah. Overall, just very good. Next up, we have to talk about this equipment. Not an animal strictly speaking, but this equipment is for brachiating animals. So this includes the orangutans. They got refurbished to have brachiation, as they should have done. But this is also going to apply to our siamangs and to a couple of other animals, like our lar gibbons when we get over there. So these are our siamangs. They are weird-looking little guys, but they really do just... They just look like this. And they've got these sort of throat pouches. And they will actually blow up those throat pouches and holler like crazy. And they'll do this like singing thing, which is really nice. It's a cool little behavior that they got. So, pretty good. Brachiation is a little bit finicky, as is just all climbing, so that is something to keep in mind. But if you really like monkeys, this is a pretty good one to have. Next, we have the Przewalski's horse. I love these guys. I wish that we had gotten more like equids. I wish that we'd gotten like a domesticated horse. But the Przewalskis is about as close as we're ever going to get to that, so I use them as a domesticated horse, even though they are the only remaining wild horse in the world. Like a proper horse, not a zebra, not a donkey, like a real horse. These look fantastic. I've had the chance to see these guys, like, in real life. These look pretty true to my memory at the very least, and to some of my video footage. So I'm quite happy with it. Lastly, we have the Scimitar Horned Oryx. I don't have a lot of things to say about it. They've got scimitar horns, and they're an oryx, and yeah. I know that their story is very important for conservation the world over. They were basically taken to the brink of extinction, like as close to extinction as you can get. And through human intervention, they were able to bounce back, and they've actually been recently reintroduced to the wild. So there's a long story with them. And this is true for basically all of the animals in this pack. So Siamangs and the Przewalskis and the Amur leopards all have their own sort of conservation stories, which is why they made it into the conservation pack. So I have yet to find a real downside to this pack. Brachiation as a mechanic is not specific to the DLC. It was included in like a base game update. So I'm not really going to count that. The only gripe I have with it is that I don't like this the gridded build kit. It's flexi-color 3D printed material. I don't know what it is, but this texture really bothers me, and I have very, very few places where it is appropriate. So I basically never use this build kit, ever. But it's the only thing in this pack that I think is an actual miss. Everything else is just so good. So very good. But I believe that covers just about everything that you need to know about the conservation pack for Planet Zoo. Definitely a massive community favorite, and overall I think just an absolute winner. Anyway, we will be continuing our coverage of all the different DLCs next week, so hopefully you'll join us for that. Anyway, stay safe, have fun, and happy building.